So I had to pull out this I don't know, spirit sweater. They just remind me of the spirits and demons of Mob Psycho. But I just never wear it because it's just so impractical. It has no pockets. It just has these little faces with zippers and you could put stuff in here, but it's just so small. Like all I could probably fit is this one key. I have a singular key secured. And just that's not the only thing. But look at the arms on this thing. It's just so hipster, just I don't know. I just don't really wear it a lot, but I just wanted to pull it out for this video. But let's get into it. I was just gonna do a review on Mob Psycho season 3, but I found out that this was the last season, which sucks because I like the show a lot. So I just thought, why not talk about the show as a whole instead of just season 3? This video will be like every review, which I'll keep it spoiler free until I say so. Even if you haven't seen Mob Psycho, just stick around for the spoiler free parts because maybe you'll end up wanting to watch it and like it as much as I did. But let's get it cracking. When I first started watching anime, I just wanted to see people throw hands with nice technical choreography, reminiscent of the old badly dubbed karate movies I used to watch as a kid. With me loving superheroes and stuff growing up, my anime taste naturally came with me wanting to see motherfuckers with superhuman strength throwing earth-splitting punches, knocking each other into the stratosphere, and people charging up energy blasts the size of planets just to hit one enemy, all with some good animation sprinkled in, and it having a good story was just a cherry on top. Because who doesn't like a well-told story? Those preferences birthed my anime taste, but as I got older and started to watch more and more anime, I really saw the scope and potential to tell great stories with really deep themes in ways that I found most interesting to me. And it just made me more open to watch shows that aren't the typical standard shonen that I watch. But shonen and action-heavy type anime set in fantastical worlds are usually what I gravitate to and end up liking the most. That's why anime like Hunter x Hunter, Full Metal, Yu Yu Hakusho, Attack on Titan, and JoJo's naturally became some of my favorites within the first viewing. And because of all of that is why I believe Mob Psycho is so dope. Mob Psycho 100 is an amazingly well animated, intriguing, fun coming of age story that gets so much done narratively in the 12 to 13 episodes it has for its first 3 seasons. Mob Psycho is such a banger to me because it takes the typical shonen anime tropes and either flips them on their head or just does them really well. It takes what I usually enjoy from anime, the amazing spectacle, crazy battles with insane animation, and puts them in the background. I don't mean in a literal sense because this show def has all that action and stuff sprinkled in throughout the story, but narratively, they aren't the important parts. Mob's feelings and growth are usually the main focus of the story. While the caveman part of my brain waits for the next crazy nuts to butts fight, the amazing writing and characterization of Mob makes the seemingly slow burn of his mundane problems enjoyable to watch. Like something so simple as him standing up for himself to say no is just as enjoyable as him exploding at 100% and using his godlike power so effortlessly. I really like the themes of loneliness, wanting to be better, and valuing the people around you. I'm already knowing, that's typical anime stuff like the power of friendship type shit, but I love the way it's all delivered in a nice heartfelt package. One thing that usually doesn't click with me in anime is comedy. Comedy isn't required for me to like anime, usually because it's way too juvenile and I end up rolling my eyes at most of it. Anime comedy is more in line with the humor of a bad cartoon. The overly hyper character that gets on everyone's nerves, or a character so stupid they mess something simple up and get hit by another character for it. You get the gist. But let me stop acting like it's never not funny. But most of the shonen shows I watch typically don't try to set up a joke, which is fine because ultimately that's not what I'm watching for. But when something actually does have decent comedy paired with my usual anime taste, it stands out so much to me. And that's probably why One Punch Man is one of my favorite anime slash manga. So with them having the same creator, it's a no fucking brainer why I clicked with Mob Psycho right off the bat. The comedy bits and jokes that they set up in this are genuinely funny to me. The character of Reigen is one of the big reasons why I find this show so funny. I love his smooth, slick talking Saul Goodman type of personality. I think he's pretty cool. Pretty cool. The way he bullshits his way out of situations is always so funny. His comedy bits are never overbearing or annoying. They use him so well because he just isn't there for comedy relief. He has some great emotional moments too, and his dynamic with Mob is just so good. They push each other to be better in their own ways, but I like all the character dynamics in this show pretty much. But Reigen just stands out to me so much and he's easily one of my favorite characters in the show. Another big reason why I find this show so hilarious is the sudden switch up of animation styles. It reminds me of Teen Titans and it's funny every time they do it. Let me clear my system. You know what really grinds my gears? What really takes my fish out of water? is anime fan service. Mob has little to no anime fan service, which I appreciate greatly. Look, I like ass and titties as much as the next guy, but it's so damn forced in anime. A girl character will have on overly revealing clothes for literally no reason, or will get hit by a blast that knocks majority of her clothes off. Like, bro, what? I feel like such a dweeb complaining about ass and titties, but most of the time it's sexualizing underage characters. Like, that just makes me feel weird and icky just looking at it. I don't want it. Get it the fuck out of my cereal. I don't have a problem if you like seeing some animated ass and titties. Like what you like. But if you're over 18 and you still enjoy this type of stuff when the characters are literally underage 90% of the time, then you're a fucking degenerate who needs to be sent to the damn Phantom Zone or Arkham Asylum. You need to be banished to the depths of the underworld, and Hades needs to deal with you. Sorry for that little rant there. I just had to get that off my chest. But let's get back to it. I just wanted to give my general review of this show since I haven't talked about it on this channel before. But now, onto my still spoiler-free review of Season 3. 90% of the praises I have for the first 2 seasons still carry over to Season 3, and I like the first 6 episodes a lot. But my problems are with the last 6 episodes, but we'll get into that. This season starts off a lot more action-packed while still telling a great narrative, which the shonen side of my brain loved. I feel like the first half of the season really encapsulates what Mob Psycho 100 is as a show. With the groundwork already laid out from the previous seasons, it's really able to lean into what makes Mob Psycho such a good show, and I loved it. The biggest problem I have with this season is that the pacing just felt really off. And it's because the 12 episodes are split down the middle narratively, and it just feels like 2 endings smushed together. It just makes the season come to a grinding halt right in the middle of it. And in my opinion, one ending is a lot more well written than the other one, because one of them has a lot more meat and has all the buildup from the previous seasons all paying off in a great conclusion. I can see why both endings are necessary for the wrap up of the whole show, but it would have worked so well if they just weave these 2 narratives together at the very least. They don't have enough time to properly set up the second ending, so it just doesn't really stack up to the amazing storytelling of what came before it. It just doesn't have a good foundation, and it just ultimately falls flat for me. That's literally my only glaring problem with this show, and I wouldn't even say the last 6 episodes are bad, but compared to the rest of the show, it's just one of the weaker narratives that they've told. I really like elements of it, but I'll dive deeper into why it doesn't flow well with me in spoilers. Despite Season 3's problems, they don't ruin the show for me. I still really enjoyed this show, and I think everyone should go watch it, even if you aren't into anime. It tells a compelling, heartfelt narrative with insane visual and action mixed in with very likable and funny characters, all while doing this without 100+ episodes. Mob Psycho 100 is probably in my top 10 anime of all time. As a whole, I give this series a 9, with the problems of Season 3 keeping it from being a 10. But they're really not all that bad, so I really say like a 9.5. Now onto Season 3 spoilers and some minor seasons for the first 2 seasons. You've been warned. They just meet aliens for no reason. I thought this was a cute moment, but it was just so random. But in hindsight, it just makes me wish that you would have used this time to build the bones for the finale. But it was just so random, I had to talk about it. I really enjoyed the progression of Mob's physicality and just the genuine happiness he has by the end of his journey. This show gives Mob the typical shonen training arc, but it's slowed down tenfold. And it's just a refreshing take on what I usually watch. Because Mob isn't training to be the strongest person in the universe. He isn't training to blow away a planet in one blast. He's just so weak physically, he just doesn't want to rely on his powers always, so he's working out to be better. It's just so enjoyable to see someone who already has that limitless power to be so maxed out off of just barely running, to him being vice captain of his fitness team, to the show ending with something so simple as a smile. It's just all so enjoyable to watch. Now on to why this season's pacing felt off to me. The first ending out of the 2 has the most substance, dealing with Dimple betraying Mob, the cult stuff that's been building up since Season 1, the big broccoli being in the middle of town that was the result of the battle and culmination of the first 2 seasons. All that groundwork laid out, and most of it being from the start of the show, all festering and being ready to pay off. Once you have Dimple's motivations being set in motion, like the first person to throw something in a food fight, you get the clash of a once evil character, and at least for me, one that I've grown to love, and I think that brings great energy to the story, against Mob, who's at the end of his emotional journey with us, all culminate in a great 100% moment from Mob, making them come to an understanding and solve their conflict in a heartfelt way that is well written like all the other conflicts we've gotten before. And it doesn't even stop there. Dimple makes an MVP play, sacrificing himself to save Mob in an amazingly well animated fight, finally ending in a very emotional moment for Mob, with him trying to remember what Dimple did because Dimple wiped his memory in their last moments together. Look, I'm not saying I dislike the idea of Mob losing control, because I do think it's a good idea, but what comes after it is just so garbage and cliche compared to the well-written situations Mob has been put into in the past. Mob accepting that destructive side of himself, as he is the only person who could stop himself, and taking down the emotional complex that he built, works. That's where this whole show has been building up to, but everything that comes comes before that moment, not being as strong as the other impactful narratives, just makes this all fall flat to me. The way that Mom slowly walks through the town, destroying it and encountering all the characters that we've seen in the past is cool, and I like that aspect of it. It kind of reminded me of JoJo's Part 4, in that they do a really good job at building out the city and introducing a bunch of characters and landmarks that the main cast constantly encounters, and by the end of Part 4, all of that plays a part in the finale. Mob tries to do this, but just not as good. Most of it just feels hollow and unearned because we didn't see most of it happen on screen. If you cut out the Dimple stuff, which I wouldn't prefer, but let's just say they did, you have more time to set up the leader of the bad guys in prison with his son coming to visit him or something, because when we see them again in the finale, they're just all close and we just never saw them forgive each other on screen. It would have been cool just to see that and give further meaning to their end battle with Mob, making it hit a lot more emotionally. Then you have more time to set up the reformed bad guys with the store that they open up. I like seeing them with their little store, and the fact that they decided to open it up in the middle of Mob's town, but you never see them open up or just see interaction with the store before that. They just kind of pop up in the finale just as an obstacle for unconscious berserk Mob to trample over and raise the stakes. This just all falls apart because of the lack of time, in my opinion, because all of the elements are there for it to be great. The last thing I had a problem with was Dimple coming back on some last minute bullshit. Look, I'm a fan of Dragon Ball Z, so I don't think a character has to die for a story to be good, but bringing him back last minute makes his whole sacrifice just worthless. It just felt like the typical shonen stuff that this show has been so good at avoiding. He literally says, and I quote, "Because you've been waiting for me deep down inside, it looks like I wasn't destroyed after all. I was able to come back because I was drawn into this spiral of power." Like, bro, what? I do enjoy Dimple not being dead because I do really like the character, but it just felt so forced and it just felt like an ass pull. The way this show has been so good at having the elements of the typical shonen shows that I watch, but doing them well enough to not have them feel tropey and tiresome is one of the big reasons why I like this show so much. But the whole final half of the season feels just so generic and out of style compared to the great care this show has been known for so far. Like I said, I enjoyed this show a lot, but the last half of season 3 just left a bad taste in my mouth. It didn't ruin the show for me or anything, but it just doesn't compare to the rest of the series. But that's pretty much it for this video. I'm interested to see if anyone else felt the same way about season 3 that I did, or if you thought it was great all the way through. Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and maybe share this video with a friend if you think they might like it. But that's it for this video. Peace.